Great insights. Thank you, everyone. When reputation is everything, how do you protect client data from advanced attacks? Our next guests are here from Mishcon de Reya and DAC Beachcroft to walk through how they maintain secure practices to ensure email security. Sit tight for this one. This panel has some great recommendations for ensuring ultimate email security. Enjoy Ensuring Ultimate Email Security in Law Firms, where reputation is everything, with your host, Amelia Dunton, Customer Success Manager at Tessian, and panel, Simon Lambe, Head of IT Security at Mishcon, and David Aird, IT Director at DAC Beachcroft.
Thanks, Stacia, and hello everyone. I'm Amelia Dunton, Customer Success Manager at Tessian, and I'm so excited to be joined by David and Simon as thought leaders in the legal industry. And we're going to be discussing how they ensure email security at law firms, which is obviously a highly regulated industry where reputation is everything. Tessian works with quite a number of different law firms globally, so I know that this is set to be a very insightful session for our audience. David, Simon, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Perfect. So to kick things off, let's just have our panelists introduce themselves. David, we'll start with you, and then Simon, will hand over to you, and then I'll begin today's discussion.
Thanks, Amelia. Hi, everyone. I'm David Aird. I'm IT Director at DAC Beachcroft. We've got about 3,000 employees across the world. Nice to see you all.
Hi, Simon Lambe. I head up the IT security team here at Mishcon. We have around about 1,500 users, mainly based in the UK.
Perfect. So we'll jump right in, and I'm going to pick on Simon first because, I've been working with you for around, getting off easy at the start. So, Simon, I've been working with you for around 6 months now, and it was your first sort of foray into the legal space. So very, very keen to hear your perspectives here and how your perspectives may have changed over the last 6 months. So how did you find the transition to the privacy laws and regulations that you're trying to solve in the legal sector? And how do they compare with what you were dealing with previously?
So it's been a really interesting journey over the last 6 months or so. So I thought sort of coming into the legal world that we'd be faced with a similar set of requirements, a similar set of obligations, etc. I think probably my biggest learning point has been around the speed and the response that my colleagues expect from our technology team, from a security team, down to simple things that, they want emails to be delivered immediately into people's inboxes. And the whole speed around response time, etc., was something I just hadn't come across in previous lives. I think we come across a lot of similar challenges, however, so making sure that we protect our personal information. But, our primary focus point is around protecting our clients' information. Clients have to trust us with their information, and we need to be making sure that we are protecting it as well as we can do so.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, David, from your perspective, given that DAC have global offices, that's a lot of privacy and data regulation to deal with. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, like Simon, I think there's lots of regulation, around the globe. I mean, we normally try and suit, whatever the highest is and have a, sort of genuine global set of standards, making sure that, in one of our small offices in South America, where we might have 15 colleagues, that they have the same sort of level of security we would in headquarters. So definitely, but it is a challenge, and I think, Simon's right. I mean, this is my first law firm. I've been in law for 8 years, and I think with law firms, the challenge is you have to be whiter than white. So, most of the laws and regulations are the same. Obviously you've got the specific legal sector regulators and the SRA and that type of thing, but it's still the same. ISO, regulations, that type of thing, GDPR that everyone else operates under. But I think, what you might get away perhaps in another, commercial company, you're certainly not going to get away in a law firm, because you are expected on everything to be showing the best standards, on everything that you do.
No pressure then.
No pressure whatsoever. Easy. That's why we look so miserable and you look so happy.
Walk in the park. So, focusing in on those ICO requirements specifically, how do they factor in your email security approaches? I guess, and has this changed at all since you started using Tessian? Let's start off with David with this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, going back to the white on white and people like the ICO, in law firms, we have to record, any of these sort of breaches and issues, and that's where Tessian has really come in, because it's by far cut massively the numbers of those sort of issues, and not every misaddressed email, that type of thing, most of them are not
Yeah.
major issues, it's your holiday email or something you've sent to the wrong person or something. But sometimes it can be quite serious, and certainly, tools like Tessian, amongst others, can help that, and the ICO regulations and now the 4% of global turnover, these sort of things, it's more important than ever. I think, if you go back 5 years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I think the highest fine you could get was about £400,000. It's now unlimited, as far as I'm aware. So it's certainly a serious business, as it should be. This is people and companies' personal, and important, business critical data. It should be protected. Let's face it.
Definitely. What are you thinking about that, Simon?
So I've sort of based my cybersecurity strategy around 3 key pillars of prevention, detection, and recovery. So I think historically, a lot of companies took the approach of, right, we're just going to be able to prevent absolutely everything. And we all know that that is just not possible. I can unplug all the computers from the internet and somebody will still do something with our data. So it's making sure we've got the right tools and processes in place to be able to detect activity, apply the right level of business context and therefore effectively the risk, and align it to our risk appetite, and then make sure we've got the appropriate steps to recover from those as well. So small things like making sure that we've tested a response. So if we do detect something in Tessian, what's the right process that we go through so that we make sure we're following the correct process so that everybody gets treated fairly.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So Simon, I guess on that point, how do you balance your information security objectives with the way that fee earners are working in, a high pace, high stakes environment?
With difficulty at times is probably in the summary of that. I think it's all down to making sure you've got the right level of engagement with the business. The last thing I want to be seen as a team of people that just say no all the time. And starting to bring people up to speed around risk and the risk of information, and do we really want to do this, and is it the right thing we're doing with our data as well. So there's always going to be a level of risk that every company has to operate under. It's making sure that that level of risk is aligned with the appetite of the business as well. So things like setting up data loss prevention steering groups that are business led rather than technology led means that I'm actually getting the right source of intelligence to be able to apply the right controls in place.
Yeah, that's very interesting. David, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Simon and anyone that works in information security has that difficult balance. It's easier for me to say yes to things at times, but I think, as Simon said, I'd almost do sort of yes, but well, we can do that, but this is maybe it's a bit like when you have good HR support, they're guiding you to what is the business outcome you want and what's the safest way to do it. And I think good information security is like that. Well, you could do it that way, but here's the risk. Well, if we just do it that way and tweak the approach, then we can be almost as nimble and quick and serve your customers quickly. But we can just make it a much safer proposition. And I think most people respect that. So it's not a no, as Simon said. It's I would almost call it a yes, but here's an even better solution.
Yeah, and just to follow on for that point, David, I've had some really successful conversations and relationships developed by the fact that we've gone in there and go, if you do this, this is the risks that we could face. And 99% of the time, the senior business person's gone, actually, I don't feel comfortable with that level of risk. Thank you. I didn't understand it beforehand.
That's really interesting. So David, I'd love to hear more about, why do you think it's so important to focus on the human layer when it comes to cybersecurity?
I think as we said in the in a question earlier or earlier today, I think it's that is the most important. I mean, Simon spoke about sort of 3 things and 3 pillars, and I think everyone has 3, 4 pillars over. I mean, in my mind, to me, it's sort of 3 things. It's the human layer, sort of basic patching, that type of thing, basic stuff, and then more advanced security tools like Tessian things. But for me, the first and everything that wraps around it is the human element. No matter where you are in the chain, you are introducing risk. And the amount of times I find, I was, pressed the wrong button in one of our phishing tests the other, a few months ago, and it was usually I was under pressure. It was whatever time of the day, etc. And it's so easily done, and there's me with a lot of experience. So it's, and I'm always sympathetic to people in our business as well. But you just have to be so careful, and that's why training and making sure people, we all have to work under pressure on things, but it's just making sure that you just take that extra few seconds, just to absorb what the email, the communication, the text, whatever it is that might be, slightly amiss, and try and get it right. And no one is infallible. You will get it wrong. So it's again how you deal with it. Get straight on the phone to IT or to people like Simon. I think I've just pressed on this. The worst thing is not to tell us. I always say to people in our, partners in our business, please just tell us. We've all made mistakes. So get on the phone. But I generally think the human part of it is the most important. Because if that fails, then you're reliant totally on the tools, and vice versa, I suppose.
Yeah. Anything to add there, Simon?
Yeah, just to support David's viewpoint, which I 100% agree with. I looked at a sort of a people, process, technology approach when it came to actually implementing the strategy as well. So spent a lot of time doing awareness campaigns, making sure we're not just taking the off-the-shelf material, we're completely tailoring it to our requirements, our risks, etc., and also to celebrate and encourage people to report activity, because we're all human, we all make mistakes, and actually the last thing I want is to people feel worried and concerned and upset that they've done something and not feel that they have the confidence to be able to report it, so we can actually deal with it as well. So we don't name and shame. We very much encourage people. I've recently conducted a phishing exercise. We're actually going to be following up with people to say thank you for not opening the email and thank you for not clicking on the links as well, just to kind of provide that reassurance that they're doing the right thing.
And that's a really good idea, Simon. I like that as well. I think it's, we're certainly jumping on to the people, in a nice way, obviously, to give them more training and things. But I think thanking the people, it's you have to balance that with interrupting their day again. But thanking the people that didn't click on it is definitely important. And I think as well, all of this is good, but there is a balance to be had. I mean, our people are now. Sometimes we almost have to send an email first saying we're going to send another email about a survey or wherever it is, particularly if it's an external email system that we are using ourselves for whatever reason. People are so paranoid, rightly so, but there is a balance to that. People cannot be on red alert all the time, let's face it.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. So we have a abuse@mishcon.com email address, which we've communicated widely, just to allow people to say, right, if you're not sure about something, just forward this email across to us. And I was really pleasantly surprised with the number of emails we got in when we launched the recent phishing campaign. So it was just a measure of saying actually the awareness campaigns are working properly. I also positioned the phishing test as a way of testing to make sure my awareness material was working properly. Then I need to do something about it to make sure that it does work properly in the future.
Definitely. And then I guess from your end users seeing these defender warnings, then how do you think that actually impacts that amount of time you would have otherwise had to spend had those emails just been sent through, if users thought they were suspicious but didn't actually have it confirmed by Tessian?
So I think within the company, so Tessian is a known product, and people, when I was going through my induction process, referenced Tessian in a positive way, as a useful tool and a tool that people rely on. It's making sure that they don't, although Tessian is a very good product, it cannot be 100% perfect. No technology solution can be. So what do I need to do, and when do I need to be able to provide around that to make sure that they're complementing the work that Tessian does for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. So I guess shifting gears slightly, David, would love to hear from you a little bit more about your tech stack for inbound email security and what you use outside of the end users.
Yeah, I mean, I think as I said earlier, first of all, for me, there's the basic human stuff. So, awareness and making sure they're as up to date as possible. I suppose then you've got the basics, so making sure the PCs and Outlook and everything else are as patched as possible on the servers and things. Dependent on if you're in Azure or Microsoft Exchange online and things. And then things like I would call them maybe legacy email filtering and antivirus systems, and then maybe more systems like yourself, maybe a bit more on the advanced security side, with regards to inbound and outbound extra scanning and things that are going on and what has been sent, as well as that we've got SCM security in God, what does it mean again, Simon? Security incident event monitoring. I can never quite remember that one. Too many acronyms.
Management.
Too many acronyms in IT. So and things like that, and we've got behavioural analytics tools as well that also look at our email systems, and then also some systems that monitor where people are. Well, hold on, David Ayer just sent an email from a location in the UK, and now all of a sudden he's sending another email from Zimbabwe. That does seem a little bit odd, so location tracking and that type of thing as well. So it's but again, it goes back to for me, the more you can chuck as many tools at this as possible, but the human part of it is just so important.
Yeah,
I think there's a bit there around doing the basics brilliantly. One of my previous CIOs came up with that saying when it came to the whole of the sort of technology function, and it really resonated with me. So you can have all of the greatest fancy tools and everything in place, but if you're not scanning your inbound emails for viruses, or you're not doing your patching properly, etc., it's going to be quite embarrassing should you get caught in an event like that.
Yeah, we call it in our place, we call it world-class basics. So we might not have the shiniest brand new Dell Alienware PC, but we're going to have the basics and get them right and do them well.
Yeah, completely agree.
Definitely. So David, I guess thinking back to when you first started using Tessian, what were the challenges? Yeah, what were the challenges?
I don't think there were any. I think this is why you're always calling me to be on these sort of panels, because I am just a huge fan. I can count on one hand probably. And we won't mention the UK advert for "Does What It Says in the Tin," as I always say with you guys. And we won't give them some free advertising, but it literally switched on. It worked from the day dot, and it's just reduced our risk, by massive percentages, and our exposure, and people talk about proving the value and things. It proves the value because you can see exactly what's going on and what has been caught, and whether it been coming in, going out, etc. So it's just quite an easy thing. It was quite an easy sell to get it through the board and exec and funding, and it really has been one of these ones that no one has ever doubted the investment we've made in Tessian. So well done.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, brilliant. So top of my mind when I knew that I was bringing Simon into this discussion was that Simon and myself are just both confessed DLP nerds. We absolutely love it, and it would be remiss of me to deprive my audience of hearing a little bit around Simon's perspective and stories from that. So Simon, in terms of your approach when it comes to email security, sending the wrong attachment to the wrong person, users exfiltrating data, how do you think about DLP from that sense?
Well, I'm completely paranoid, as you and I, as you know, in our conversations around this kind of piece. So I can talk about.
You two must be fun at parties, I must say.
So I can talk about this because we went public with it. But when I worked at Dyson, I detected using DLP somebody inside our environment selling secrets to one of our competitors. And that triggered a whole sort of flurry of activity where it was part of a pilot group around DLP. Let's see if it's going to provide any benefit to us. To overnight, just get this technology, get it rolled out. Let's see exactly what's going across the whole environment. So that was very interesting, and there's lots of sort of knock-on effects like new contracts and various legal procedures that went into place. I think on a sort of more personal side, it's very hard given the amount of information that does flow through a data loss prevention system of being able to detect things. I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time one time when I actually found an employee sending a goodbye note and actually saying that actually enough is enough. And it's the first time ever where I've had to deal with a sort of life and death situation where actually, because the technology in place, I believe that we may have saved a life.
Wow,
That's
incredible.
certainly a powerful story, isn't it, James?
Yeah,
definitely.
Wow.
Around, I guess, the human perspective.
Yeah.
Simon, did you have to, was that something special you set up, or was that just, it was scanning for that type of, it's quite an unusual thing to be, brought up. It's not a credit card detail, it's not, sort of top secret files, but it's
So
you would want to catch.
Yeah, so because we were looking at with certain groups of people that had access to some particularly sensitive intellectual property. So it just happened that we had a sort of tighter rule set in place to kind of look at the information that was going on. We then applied a rule that said, okay, right, sort of information going off to sort of Gmail accounts and sort of personal email accounts and those kind of things as well could be a higher risk to us. So therefore, actually being able to sort of look at those, and it was very much being in the right place at the right time because we were gathering so much information. And one of the big things I learned about that project was to start small and grow, whereas I was told to start big, and actually you would lose things within all the other events that went on there. The previous event that I referred to, I actually had a DLP rule set in place that that was looking for emails going to our competitor domains. So, and that was quite challenging because some of our competitors we actually worked with closely, and some of those we didn't. And actually having the right incident response process for it, I learned a lot in those few days or so of actually making sure I contacted the right people. Because initially it was a case, actually, don't worry about that. We're working with these people. And when I spoke to a different set of stakeholders, it's like, actually, this is really bad, and we need to kind of hit the big red button on it.
I think the interesting thing about these things is your speed of response was obviously really good because it's, again, all these systems, are, and even things that are great like Tessian, who's going to monitor it, who's going to pick it up, if you're struggling with, numbers of security people and that type of thing, you can have all the monitoring systems in the world, but it's really about how you respond to it, I suppose. And again,
Absolutely.
that underlines the human layer as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it was down to the fact it was still in project mode. So I was heavily involved in configuring things like the policies and the rule sets and those kind of things. So actually, by being in the right place at the right time, enabled me to pick up on some of these things. And it was a really good learning experience of actually then moving forward and going, okay, right, when I recreate new rule sets. So when I put DLP in at Royal Mail, I had 3 work streams. I had the technology implementation, I had the rule set work stream, and I also had the incident response work stream. Because those 3 are closely aligned, but at the same time also require their own specific focus.
Sounds like a DLP junkie between the two of you.
Yeah, we're going to have a particular session on that one. Unfortunately, we're just running out of time, but it's been such a pleasure speaking with you both, and no doubt we should hopefully have a follow-up session on this at some point because it's been such an interesting discussion. So thank you both for joining me, and back to you, Stacia.